there are big changes coming September 29th to the hours of service, and I think you're going to want to know about them. So let's talk about them here. I'm going to go over them all, so get ready. Get some popcorn, and these are going to be very important, all right? So we need to know about them. That date's coming up, September 29th, 2020. Hello, and welcome to Trucking Answers. I'm Mark, your Hours of Service host, and we've got some changes coming up to the hours of service, so let's get to them. First off is the short haul exemption for local drivers. So currently it's 100 air miles. It'll be 150 air miles, and it will go from 12 hours, the current amount, to 14 hours where they won't need to use a log. That's up to their company though, so check with your motor carrier for further instructions on that if they allow it. So that's the story on that. Let's move on to things that probably most people on this channel want to know about. All right, let's talk adverse driving conditions. So what is happening, and I have all this right here for me to get myself going here. The adverse driving conditions are, they're going to add 2 hours to your duty day, and I said duty. Currently, you get 2 extra driving hours, which will not change, but you only get 13 hours in a 14-hour day, and that's not great. What they're going to do is give you 13 driving hours in a 16-hour day due to adverse driving conditions. They define adverse driving conditions as snow, sleet, ice, fog, or adverse weather, or unusual road or traffic conditions. Unusual, okay? And they were not known or could not be reasonably known for the driver immediately prior to your duty day or before you begin driving, and for your motor carrier immediately prior to them dispatching you. So, and they go on with some Q&A in there, and it can't be, they use Buffalo, New York as an example. Snow in Buffalo, New York is not an adverse driving condition in the winter. It might be in July, but it has to be something that is unusual, okay, or different than normal. And another thing, they talk about a driver who comes upon a road that's closed due to an accident. Well, that's something he wouldn't have known about at the beginning of his day probably, and that driver would be allowed this. Now, I know people use this a lot, and that's up to you how you use it, but you'll get an extra 2 hours on your day. You'll be able to go from 14 to 16 hours and still keep the extra 2 driving hours, taking you up to 13 hours for adverse driving conditions, starting September 29th. Next up, the 30-minute break. All right, so they're changing the 30-minute break. Currently, you need a 30-minute break after 8 hours on duty, and the break has to be off duty. All right, this video is giving me a lot of opportunity to say duty. So on the new hours of service, you will need a 30-minute break only after 8 driving hours. All right, so after 8 hours of driving, you need a 30-minute break, and the break can be either in the sleeper, it can be off duty, or it can be on duty. What they're trying to do is give you a break from driving, from drive time. So, and they actually talked about this. It can be any combination of those 3 as long as the 30-minute break is not split up. All right, so it can be any of those. And it said you could do 10 minutes in the sleeper, and then 10 minutes on duty, I guess, checking your lights or something, and then 10 minutes reading a book on a picnic bench. That's 30 total minutes. I don't know who would do that, but that's something the FMCSA would come up with in their comment section. So 30 minutes of on duty, and most people will use that probably at the fuel island where they're already sitting blocking the islands anyways. But that's how it would work. 30 minutes of anything but driving time after 8 driving hours. So if you have a day where for some reason you don't get 8 driving hours in, you won't need a break that day, and that'll be pretty convenient. I think that's one of the better changes that will help a lot of people. Last up, the split sleeper. Currently, we're at 8.2, right on the split sleeper, and the small section does not stop your clock. Well, there's going to be big changes. You're going to be able to 8.2 it or 7.3 it, and both sections stop your clock. And the FMCSA in their Q&A said either section can come first. The longer part has to be in the sleeper. So during your day, you can hit 3 hours off duty and use that to stop your 14-hour clock And later, you'll just need to take at least 7 hours in the sleeper for the split. You can still continue on to 10, but you'll need 7 sleeper hours at the end of that to make sure you do the 3-7 split. It can be A2, it can be 7.5, 2.5. All right, so the longer section has to be at least 7 hours though. So 7.3 is the least they're going. Didn't do 5.5 yet. I do think that maybe someday that'll come. Who knows? We'll go back to the way it used to be on the sleeper. But both sections, stopping the clock is a pretty interesting way to do it. If you have a sleeper and can take advantage of that, it might help a lot of people. I can see there'll be some companies that, of course, will want people, well, just hop in the sleeper there. You know, you can just sit there off duty and not get paid. So have to let me know how that goes with that after these go into effect. Remember, all these go into effect September 29th, 2020. Your ELD manufacturer, of which there are many, should be up to date on it that day, and over sometime your ELD ought to update with those new rules in there. Hopefully, if you're still on paper logs in your glider kit, or you're still rocking that Marmon down the road, I guess you can just start filling out the paper the way that the new rules will be, all right? So I want to thank everybody for watching, and we'll be talking about this, of course, on the live shows coming up at 12:30 p.m. Eastern, always, among many other things. I appreciate you being here, and we'll see you on the next Trucking Answers.